Well, hello everyone. My name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to week 41 of 2021, which is, wow, that's coming up on us fast. This was the first full week of October. And before we get started with the books, which I did read 13 books this week, so it was a pretty good one, including some I had a great week of reading, but I have some fun stuff to just show off and everything because I want to, and I don't need a dedicated video for it, but I'm going to show it off. But the first thing is we do have a new channel member to welcome. We have Megan from Beating the Odds. Thank you, Megan, so much for joining the channel. It means so much to me, and it just makes me feel very loved and blessed that you choose to support this crazy little channel of mine. Also, I just got back from traveling again. So much traveling in the last few weeks. I was a little stressed out because I got kind of behind on videos this week, which I know, those of you who are my dedicated followers, you're so supportive and you're you have life to live, but it's tough for me because I like things to be planned ahead, and I just got a little bit drowned in it. Not in a severe way, but I was also coming out of kind of not a bout of depression, but I was just having some not great body image because I actually had my face break out, which never happens to me. I had a bad reaction to a new lotion that I tried, which again never happens to me. My skin is so tough and great, and I do have rosacea. It's just part of my family, which is why I'm my cheeks will get pretty red, but I have a pretty mild. Anyway, I'm just sharing this with you. Point being, I don't normally struggle with my self-image. I'm a pretty confident woman. I don't mind, but it would just hit me hard. So it was really hard to make myself film. And because this is something that for 3.5 years I do completely out of joy, I very rarely feel obligated for a video. It's always because I'm excited to make it. And last week I just had a few days where I was feeling obligated, and that's not how I ever want to feel, But anyway, I just got back from my sister's baby shower, and then maybe put up a picture. She's cute. I got these cute pumpkin earrings that were prizes there, and I wore them, and they're really cute. And then in a little bit I have a Halloween party with some of my friends here in town, and I'm not planning to dress up because it's not that I don't think dressing up is cool. I just don't want to, but I'm going to go hang out with them and everything. So the couple things I was going to show off. So first off, I got some of my Sophie Lark merch. That just launched about a week and a half ago, and this one is an Ivan one, and it says, "Good morning, my little fox," which just does things for me. So I literally put my water in here so that I could drink from Ivan. I also ordered a hoodie from them. But that's not here yet. I ordered a Rylan hoodie because he was the one that I wanted to have my back. So my Rylan hoodie will be here soon. Also, I had ordered some more of my own merch because there was some designs that I still wanted. And so I ordered one of the Sassy Romance Reader. And I ordered it, the thing too is I wanted a sweater in the biggest size so that I could wear it to bed. So I got this one in the 2XL, which is pretty big. But yeah. My merch is always down below in my videos, but I just love this one. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. But I ordered this one for me. And yeah, I just love how it's really stretchy and wide. And in this one, I might even put thumb holes for myself. I might cut a thumb hole and then whip stitch around it so that I have thummies. But anyway, I got that. And then, I think I don't know if I shared this in the last one, but I had my Kindle die on me last week. It just went kaput. And sadly, I went and bought one, and 2 days later they did the Kindle sale, but that's okay. I wanted it immediately, and so I went and bought it. So I just got a black one, and I put some new stickers on it, and I brought a got a pretty pop socket. And then I ordered a new sleeve from Jessica. So Jessica from Peace Love Books actually has an Etsy shop where she makes book sleeves, and she makes Kindle sleeves as well as like indie published sleeve sizes and like regular like mass market. Like this also fits, like I can put my mass markets in there too, which I like. Like it either fits my Kindle, and sometimes I can fit both in there. So anyway, I was just showing off some goods that I got. And then one other thing that I got in the mail today, which I was waiting for, is Serena Akeroyd, who is actually going to be on the channel next Sunday, 1 week from when you're watching this. But she had found one of the reviews that I had did about her books. And so she actually sent me, I didn't have these yet. She actually sent me hardback copies of The Dawn and the Lady. These are so stunning. I kind of want to cry. So thank you so much, Serena. She's also sending me book plates for them. So these are, oop, there was the note inside. But I was not expecting these gorgeous hardcovers. So I just had to show those off. I really love these books, by the way. They were both 5 stars for me. So let's go ahead and get into the week after all of that gabbing. My hair, I'm not loving today, but whatever, we're going to go with it. So yes, the 13 books that I read, some of these I can get through pretty quickly. So we'll dive in. So the first book that I finished was Prisoner by Annika Martin and Skye Warren. This was a book that was a viewer recommendation. If you know, in October, I'm actually reading 10 viewer recommendations. So I picked them from my book rec form, which I do pick books from regularly. That's always linked down below in my link tree if you would like to recommend a book to me. But also, this is one of my best friends. It's one of her favorite books. So I listened to the audio of this. This is about a woman named, what's her name? Abigail. And she is a like teacher. She's doing a project with a prison with creative writing. And our hero, his name is Grayson, and he decides to use her class to help him get out of prison. I'm not going to tell you how that happens or whatever, but the point being, that's what this is about. And when he escapes, he forces her to come with as his hostage. But it quickly turns into there being more between the two of them. I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely understand why it is really loved. The second book is actually called Hostage. And I want to read that one as well. But this was fascinating. There is dubious consent and some non-consensual things in here. So it's more along the lines of dub-con, but there is some non-con as well in the beginning of their relationship. There's lots of threats of murder. And it's pretty violent. But I don't know, I just really connected with our hero. And once you find out his story and how he ended up in prison and what's really going on with him, I really liked it. I liked it a lot. Then I read Tears of Salvation by Michelle Hurd. This is, I have a lot of these to talk about, but this is one of the Underworld Kings. I believe this one is already out. The arcs for these are basically coming out like 2 or 3 days before the books come out. So I've had to stay like right on top of these books so that I didn't get behind. But I kind of like it because it's forcing me to, well, not forcing me, but it's helping me read authors that I normally wouldn't have read. And some authors that I already have read before, and I'm just really liking that. So this one I gave 4.5 stars. This one, and here's the thing too, I might get some of these confused, but all of these that I'm listing, I have reviews for them because I reviewed them as arcs. So if you want to know more thoughts, you can check out my Goodreads down below and I have them there. But I believe this one is about, our heroine is the daughter of this woman who runs sex trafficking in Colombia. And our hero is trying to stop this sex trafficking that she's doing from happening. I believe it had like happened to his sister or a loved one. And our heroine is actually secretly a vigilante who is undermining her mother's operation. And so our hero and heroine, they actually had a like one night stand in a club, and then he ends up like tracking her, not the person that, not her as the entity from his club, but as the daughter of his enemy. He's tracking her movements, and he realizes that not only is she the woman that he fucked in the club, she is also trying to undermine her mother. And so he gets a real boner for her because he's like, she's amazing. And so he wants to create an alliance with her to bring down her mom. And now she doesn't trust him quite much. But then there's a twist that maybe forces her to trust him, and some things that happen. So this is a 4.5 star for me. There is specifically a thing that made it not work for me, and I do talk about that in my review. But overall, I still I think this is my favorite one that I read in the Underworld Kings so far, and I'm going to touch on some more of them as we go. But then I started the Horde Kings of Drakkar, so we're going to talk about a lot of them in this week's. But I read Captive of the Horde King by Zoey Draven. I knew that I would like these because Jessin binged all of these books when she was on vacation earlier this year, and they're going to be doing the first book for one of the podcast episodes for Smart Women Read Romance. So that's part of the reason I wanted to read it. The first 3 books are on Audible. I did buy them, but the books are on KU, and you can do the $7 upgrade for them if you want. And the first 3 out of the 4 all have audiobooks, and I listened to those. But we'll get to that. So Captive of the Horde King, this is about an alien planet where like there are humans who live there. They have a fancy name. And then there's the Drakkar, which are an alien. They do have a tail. Their skin, I guess, is, I don't fully know what color their skin is. Like, the description's bad. They do have a tail. And think of them as like a cross between the Dothraki from Game of Thrones, like the nomadic horse people, and Ice Planet barbarians. Think of them as a cross between there. And our heroine, her brother ends up doing something that's against the law because the Drakkar have kind of like them and a few other alien races. They are kind of like in control of everything. And there are certain things that humans are not allowed to do. And her brother does one of those. And so she ends up taking the blame for it. And our hero, he does have to deliver her punishment, but then he takes her and decides to make her his queen. And yeah, that's what I'll say. I gave this one 5 stars. I really liked it. I did. Then I did a reread. I was talking about this. I was having trouble like clicking with a book because the next few books that I'll talk about, I wasn't really clicking with them. So I do have a couple like break in case of emergency books on my Audible. And one of them was I hadn't listened to the audiobook for Heavy Crown yet. So I did. And surprise, surprise, this book was 5 stars. I loved spending time with Yelena and Sebastian and experiencing this through Audible and really seeing a lot of the subtle nuances and things that are being set up for Kingmakers when we read this. And I just felt so much for Yelena, and I love seeing Sebastian kind of go from, you know, a little bit ambivalent about the family business to realizing that he needs to play a bigger part in that. This also is like so heartbreaking, and it just goes to show like I love watching Sophie's journey as an author. I'm a stan. This is a Sophie Lark stan account. If you aren't prepared for that yet, I'm sorry, but move along. So this was 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. Woo! Then I read Kings of Blood and Money by Dukey. This is another one of the Underworld Kings. This is a MFM menage between a orphan girl who'd been taken in by this kind of mafia boss or guy who's adjacent to the mafia after her parents were killed. And it's an MFM between her and twin brothers who she's forced to live with. But she really grows up kind of separated from them because their father really doesn't want them to be friends. It's kind of an interesting setup. surprisingly, this MFM worked for me. If y'all have been around a while, you know that I don't really enjoy MFMs. The 2 reasons this worked for me is, number 1, because they were brothers. So we didn't go down the incestuous route and make this an MMF. And also, just the way it kind of all, like, because one of my reasons where I want things to be MMF is because I want everyone to have a deep relationship with each other. I want each part of a relationship to be important, whether it's 2, 3, 7, however many people are in this relationship, I want it to be tight. And because these 2 are brothers, I still felt like their relationship was very tight. It just, thank goodness, wasn't sexual. So this one was pretty good. I gave this one 4 stars. It is probably my second favorite after Tears of Salvation that I've read so far. So definitely check that out. This one's also out already. Then I read Wolfchild by Serena Akeroyd. This is a reverse harem with wolves and a woman who has just recently been turned and discovers that she is the new Omega, which means she's a mate to an Alpha. And she is also an Omega that has multiple mates. So she is also mated with these twin wolf brothers. And twins were a thing apparently. And then, yeah, our hero, who's the Alpha. This is the first in a trilogy, and I will say, I probably won't be continuing it because for me, at the end of this book, I feel like there was an HEA. Well, not feel like there was an HEA, and I'm not really interested in continuing to poke at our relationship and see what else comes out of it. Also, this was not a MMFM or MMF. Like everybody, like they had relationships with her. And again, I don't really like that. I want us all to be one thing. And also there was a lot of plot in the fantasy world that I just didn't care for. Like I found myself bored in a few places. So I gave this one a 3.5 star. Then I read Jacob by Jaqueline Frank. This is one that I chose to read kind of some paranormal for October. This was also a recommendation from my good friend Bree. They're technically like demons. They definitely give off a vampire vibe, but they are demons. And our hero Jacob is an enforcer who keeps demons from abusing relationships with humans. And he, to his great chagrin, discovers himself super attracted to a human woman himself. But is she really human? And what's really going on between her and him? And what does it mean more for his race as a whole? I don't want to spoil anything with this. I listened to the audiobook. I believe all of these are on Anyplay, which is awesome. And I just had a really great time. Like, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil this, but this really put me back into like the early 2000s bubble of really enjoying a paranormal. You know, like I was a big fan. I have them over here. Like I was a big fan of the Night Hunters or the Dark Hunters and the Carpathians. I really loved that stuff when I was a teen, and this really put me right back in that bubble. And also we have like our hero is this ultra protective man who just wants to bang this woman so hard, but he's so afraid of like hurting her and what it means that he's attracted to a human. And there's so much dynamic going on, and I really liked it. I gave this one 4 stars, and I probably will continue with the series. Then I read Eyes of Silver, Eyes of Gold. This is a book that has been recommended to me by many people, both on Instagram, on my videos, and even in my book form as well, and I just decided to go for it. This cover, I'm sorry, it is cheesy as fuck, and it is such a bad misrepresentation of this wonderful book. Eyes of Silver, Eyes of Gold. This was a 6-star book for me. This book starts out with our heroine who is on the run. She is a spinster. She's 28. She has spurned all of the matches her father is trying to make for her, and she's trying to make a break for it. And she has $20 in her pocket. This is a historical romance. Takes place in the West. It's in Colorado. And our hero is a half native half Native American, and he has his own farm, and they actually know each other. They went to school together, and they have a kind of like distant friendship. Like they got along, but they haven't been around each other in, you know, like 15 years. But they kind of sort of had flirty eyes for each other, but they knew nothing was going to come of it. But there is like, they know each other. And she ends up spending the night in his barn when she's on the run, and he finds her the next morning, and he knows there's going to be trouble. And he's like, how far do you think you're going to get with $20? Let me loan you some money. And they're going back and forth with it. And then her father, the man he's trying to get her to marry, her brother, and a few other men, 9 in total, show up, and all hell breaks loose. I won't go into every detail of it, but it ends with a farce of a marriage happening between Annie and Cord. His name is Cord, like as in like a cord of rope. And Cord is left for dead, and Annie had the shit kicked out of her. And her father says, you're too bloody to ride home on my horse with me. I'm going to let you sit here with your new dead husband, and I'll be back for you in a few days when you can appropriately apologize for what you've done. So, yeah, Annie is left. She realizes Cord is still alive, and she takes care of him. And when his brothers come and even think the worst of him, like they think whatever happened to both of them is his fault, she chases them away with a gun and is like, get the fuck off our land. If you can't be helpful, leave. So she stakes her claim against when her father shows back up, brothers come, and she stays and helps Cord heal and herself heal. And this is the story of how they beat the odds and how they find love that they just were not expecting to find. And God, this book was so beautiful. It is very quiet in a lot of ways. It is a story of survival and living on the farm. Like, it really fed my like Little House on the Prairie heart. I absolutely adore Little House on the Prairie, and it was like Little House on the Prairie but sexier. And it's also a hero who just absolutely worships his heroine, and he never believes that he's good enough for her. And not in a way that would irritate me, because that irritates me sometimes when even though someone tells you that they care for you, you just can't believe it. Cord honors and respects her so much and allows her to be her best self. And this book was humbling and beautiful, and I just had to give it 6 stars. I absolutely understand why it's a favorite, and this is on Kindle Unlimited, and I beg you, if you love historicals, if you love westerns, if you love any of that stuff, look past this cover, get the Kindle book, don't even look at the cover, and give this book a try, because it is a 6-star read for me. It is a favorite, and it was stunningly amazing. It really takes on like racism and prejudice and like internalized prejudice, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Then I read Claimed by the Horde King, which was book 2 in the Horde Kings of Drakkar. This one, our heroine is a what does this heroine do? This heroine is a hunter, and she gets caught hunting, and so she gets taken by our Horde King. But actually it ends up being the best thing that ever happened to her, because she reminds me of Katniss. I know that's a weird comparison, but she really reminds me of Katniss in the way that like she's barely getting by. She is on her own. She doesn't have family, but she is like killing meat and like trading it for goods, and she's barely holding on. And when the Horde King takes her and really has like feelings for her, he first is just going to make her stay with them for a certain amount of time. And then, oh, this is the one where she has to be punished. I'm so sorry. The first one that I talked about, she just gives herself in exchange for her brother. I'm so sorry I messed that up. This one, she has to be punished. She has to be whipped for killing game that she wasn't supposed to. But then he takes her to take care of her and ends up falling for her. Sorry I messed it up. Then I read Kiss of Death by Mary Elizabeth. This was another book in the Underworld Kings. This one was only a novella length. I actually don't have much to say about this one. You can check out my review if you want to know more. But I didn't appreciate that I couldn't really connect with these characters, and it's part of a different world. And I feel like it should have been able to stand on its own more than it did. So I gave this one 3.5 stars because I didn't want to diss it as someone who like hasn't read more books by the author, but I didn't have a super great time with it. So didn't love it. Then I read The Madness of the Horde King. This was book 3 in the series. This one we have our hero is literally considered mad because he hears voices and all that fun stuff. And this was my least favorite one. I gave it 3.5 stars. And yeah, it is getting super dark. I'm sorry the lighting is diving off, but it's about to like thunder and rain. And so I'm trying to get through these before we like lose everything. Then I read Darius by Grace Burrowes. I read this one because I had heard about this book in a list of ones that had male escorts in it. Our hero is like a poor gentleman who has sisters that he needs to take care of. And so he gives his favors out to women who pay him for them. And now we have this lord who is like 60 years old, and he has a young bride who he wants to make sure gets pregnant so that she has a son when he dies to like inherit and keep her safe. And so he agrees to take a month to try to get her pregnant, and then they'll never see each other again. And sounds a little bit like Waking Up with the Duke, right? Which I haven't read that book yet. I plan to, but this one I listened to it on Anyplay. And the thing is that I loved the first half of this book where they were getting to know each other and having sex and trying to keep their feelings at bay. But then the next half, they were mostly apart the whole time, and there was a lot of other people involved in the story that I just didn't care to hear about. And so it was frustrating for me. I will say that. It was frustrating. Then I read Broken by the Horde King. This was the 4th and currently the last one that's out. It's set up that like I feel like there should be more in the series because there's a bigger plot we're building to. But this one is actually a friends to lovers. Our heroine is a human who's been adopted by a horde, and she has feelings for the prince of their horde, and they're friends from the age of 8 until she's 16. And then he has to go and do his like training to become his own horde king, because you don't just inherit a horde, you have to earn one. And when he comes back, she makes her move and he rejects her because of reasons. And then I think 9 years later, he comes back and she's been training as a healer. He needs a healer for his horde, so he asks her to come and be his healer. And she's like, I can't do that. I can't be around you. And he really wants to use this as the opportunity to win her back. And we start to learn his reasonings for stepping back from her for a certain time. And honestly, I usually don't like friends to lovers where we've had like a breakup, kind of, where there was a reason. And I don't like time jumps. Because this one was like an alien romance and there are bigger reasons why he would separate himself from her, I gave this one 5 stars, and it's actually my favorite one in this series. I loved it more than the first one. And then the last one that I want to talk about real quick before I lose the light, this is frustrating. I read And Then He Kissed Her by Laura Lee Gurkhe. This was one of my viewer recommendations. I listened to the audio on, I actually bought this one on Audible because it wasn't in my library or on Anyplay. But this one is about a Lord Marlowe who owns newspapers and is a like publisher and editor and stuff. And our heroine has been his secretary for 5 years. She's very prim and proper, and she has her own books and writings that she would like to publish. And she's always like put them forward to him, and he's always been like, no, your writing style just doesn't work for me. And then there's this instant one day where he kind of slips up and she realizes that he doesn't know anything about the books that she's written. And so she feels very betrayed that he hasn't even read any of the stuff she's written. So she quits. and she gets hired by a different newspaper who decides to print her articles as kind of like a Dear Abby type thing, but about how to be a lady and the newest styles and everything. And this happens to be a newspaper that our hero has been trying to buy, and her column ends up making this paper worth like so much more money than it was before. But he does end up buying it. And so she's like, great, I'm going to lose my job now because I made him angry by quitting. But the thing that our hero does that's amazing is he realizes that he was wrong. And he's like, I've realized that just because I don't find this stuff entertaining, there are people that do. And he's like, I'm about making money, and your column is going to make me a lot of money. So let's work together, and I will pay you more money, and we will be partners in this endeavor. And that happens. And along the way, they fall for each other. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. I liked it quite a bit. It was pretty unique. The main tension in this was that he's been divorced before, and he doesn't want to marry ever again. And she's this kind of like buttoned up spinster who's never really felt for someone the way she feels for him. So this does have a mistress trope, which is not my favorite thing in historicals. I've said that many times, especially when the man is the one in like power over the woman, which he usually is. When he's like, all you're going to get from me is sex, be happy with it, I get very frustrated. However, the way that it played out in this book, that didn't bother me. So again, I really enjoyed it. The reason it's 4 stars and not more is that there also wasn't a ton that was like special about this book for me. I thought it was great. I will probably recommend it in some videos when it comes up. Our heroine could have been annoying, but I don't think she tipped into that. And our hero, he could have been an asshole, and I feel like he didn't tip into that. I enjoyed it. So there you go. I gave this one 4 stars. So there we go. We made it through it before the light totally went away. But yeah, thank you so much for watching my weekly wrap up. If you'd like to see more, you can check those out. I have a playlist of every book that I've read this year. I've read over 550 books so far this year, so definitely check that out. All my social medias are linked down below. Thank you so much for watching this. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye.